friends! Welcome to Get Your Play Online's Teach It Tuesday. I'm Lindy and today we are going to be doing an activity called Apple Bubbles. And this one's so much fun because we get to spend a lot of time doing this. So much fun, blowing lots of bubbles. So we are going to be seeing if we can find out what makes the best bubbles. We're going to be looking at milks and either a juice or a sports drink and water to start out with. So we are going to be turning into scientists today. We already do lots of things that scientists do every day without even knowing it. So the scientists usually observe, which means they use their eyes and sometimes their nose or their mouth if it's safe, and their hands to touch, and they measure, see which is taller or weighs more, and they sometimes write that down. So you do a lot of those things already in everyday life. You watch to see when the leaves change colors, and sometimes you measure yourself to see if you've grown. So we're going to be putting all of those different things the scientists do, those observations, into this experiment so that we can be scientists and decide what liquid makes the best bubbles and if there's anything we can do to make the bubbles even better. So I'm super excited to get started with this. So our first step is going to be creating these apple cups.
First, we want to create a cup out of our apple. So we want to use a sharp knife to make a circular shape at the top and dig out some of the middle of the apple. We want to make sure that you're asking a parent or an older sibling who is allowed to use a sharp knife for this step. I'm using apples for this experiment, but you could also use pumpkins to make it seasonal, or if you have neither, you could use just plain cups. Now once you finally get the top off with the knife, you can go back with a spoon. I have this one with a serrated edge, which are pokey, but they don't hurt to touch. And this might be a part that you might be allowed, with permission from your parents, to go ahead and do this part. Make sure you ask first. So you're going to use your spoon to scoop out parts of the apple, remembering not to get the very bottom out because then some of the liquid might fall through, and we want to keep it all in our apple cup. Keep working to scoop out your apple until you've created 3 apple cups. And the fun part is, as long as the pieces that you're taking out didn't fall on the floor, you can eat them as snacks. Now that all 3 of my apple cups are finished, I am ready to put the liquids in the cups. So I've got my water, my sports drink or juice, and my milk. Fill it up pretty tall, but not all the way to the tip so that it doesn't spill.
Here comes the most exciting part of the experiment, where we get to actually blow the bubbles. So we've got all of our apple cups and we filled them up with all of the liquids that we're using, and we have our straw. So the next step is to pick one of the liquids and start blowing bubbles. And then we get to compare them to the other liquids. So let's start with our water first. Put your straw into your mouth and we're gonna blow as hard as we can into the water liquid. Ready? Can you see all those bubbles? They were small and medium-sized bubbles, but they all disappeared very, very quickly. But I definitely got some bubbles out of my water. Now, let's move on to our fruit juice or sports drink like I put in mine. Let's make a prediction. Do you think that the sports drink or juice will have better or bigger bubbles that last longer than the water bubbles were? Let's try it out and see if your prediction was correct. lots of bubbles, kind of the same with water. There were medium ones and small bubbles, but they all went away very, very quickly. So I'd say these two had very similar type of bubbles. Now we have one more liquid left to make a prediction for. Do you think our milk is going to have bigger bubbles that last longer than these two that we tried before? Or do you think it's going to have less bubbles and last even shorter amount of time for the bubbles that it makes for milk? Or maybe do you think it won't make any milk? So sit and think about it for a second. Make your prediction. I think I know what I'm going to predict is going to happen. So let's see if we're right. So put your straw into the milk. Wow, look at those huge bubbles. And they're still there. I'm gonna do some more up close for you. Look at those bubbles are still hanging around. They didn't pop quickly like some of the other liquids we did. That is so interesting. I wonder why that is. Now I wonder why some of these bubbles are able to be bigger and stay longer than others. Have you been thinking about that? Well, it's actually because of something called surface tension. Water has a high surface tension, and that means that the water molecules are stuck really close together. So it's like a rubber band that can break. But milk has protein in it, and the proteins connect them together and they can stretch, so they have a low surface tension. That means that the rubber band isn't stretched as far, so it's only like this much when the bubbles happen. So they're less likely to break as fast as when the water tension, or the surface tension of the water was really high, and it's easy to pop them. So that's such a cool fact.
After learning that milk had low surface tension and proteins made a part of why the bubbles were so big, I decided to use egg whites mixed with water, and I ended up making huge bubbles.
Okay, so our very last challenge for our apple bubble science experiment is for you to go into your kitchen and see if you can find anything that you think will make better bubbles than our milk did or our mixture with eggs did. It can be a liquid or a solid, anything you want. You can have something added to one of the liquids we already have. So go ahead and go into your kitchen and see if you can find something that you think might make a bigger bubble. Ready, set, go! I have found for my item Dawn dish soap. So while you're trying out your new find from the kitchen to see how it works, I'm going to be trying my Dawn dish soap in my Gatorade, a sports drink. So I'm putting a little bit of it in, and with a straw, I'm gonna stir it around. And my guess is that this is going to make a lot of bubbles, because when I do dishes with this soap, there are a lot of bubbles. So I'm thinking maybe it will make more bubbles in my sports drink too. Let's find out. It definitely did. That's awesome. So it looks like, by the fact that I have a lot of bubbles that are still sticking around, that dishwashing soap also lowers surface tension so that these bubbles can hang around and be really big for us. And that was so cool to see, and I loved that experiment. I had a great time doing this apple bubble experiment with you. I hope you did too, and I would love to see what your experience was like. So if you have a picture, make sure to tag us at Get Your Play Online or rate a comment so I can see how it went. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye guys.